Got another good one for you today. You know why? Because we get to talk money. Yay!
Yay! Woo!
Yay! I get really excited about talking money, guys, because we don't talk it enough.
Without a knowledge of money, you cannot be a successful adult.
Parents that say that they almost or never talk to their kids about money, over or under 20%.
Definitely over 20%.
I would have said under. It was a big discussion in my family.
25% of parents say that they never talk to their kids about money.
Why? My question to these people is, what are you doing? Are you trying to raise a child into an adult? Like, why not have the conversation?
I literally just did a series on LinkedIn for the month of April where we introduced a bunch of children's financial literacy resources.
I was trained by somebody at a previous company that basically believed deeply in his mind, like raises and promotions and extra bonuses don't really matter. Because at the end of the day, you make more, you're going to spend more.
29.2% of people do not save money.
The credit card ain't going to say no. There's a lot on the credit card. But at the end of the month, when it's time to pay off the card, and you're like, oh, what? We spent how much on what? What?
The retiree community, the pre-retiree community, really freaking out right now.
This is why it's important, guys, to work with somebody that knows what they're talking about and to work with them consistently enough to get you where you want to go.
Welcome to the good life.
What's up? We are back. Another Good Life episode. So glad that you can join us here on this beginning of June. We're going to dive right into the podcast today. So as always, this is the Good Life Visual Audio Podcast with Stu. Say what's up, Stu.
What's up, y'all?
Got Kobi here. Say what's up, Kobi.
What up, doe?
And as always, I'm Chris. We're here diving in again to how to design your life with extraordinary health, wealth, and that mindset. Find us everywhere you listen and watch, whether that's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, here on LinkedIn, because we got another good one for you today. You know why? Because we get to talk money. Yay!
Yay! Woo!
Yay! I get really excited about talking money, guys, because we don't talk it enough. We don't have the conversation in the open enough. We might have it in our small groups, so we don't have it in the open enough. So I'm always excited to have financial wealth building conversations. But let's dive in anyway. As always, we're going to start our show with some client takeaways. Again, for those of you that have been following us for some time, this is episode 70 of The Good Life. For those of you that have been following us for some time, you know that we're all individual coaches, right, in our respective areas. So we get a chance to sit down with clients one-on-one or even in group settings where we then get insight on what people are dealing with. And we want to make sure we bring you some of that value of what we've been getting over this past week. So that's where we're going to start it off. Stu, if you want to start it off, what was your client story or client takeaway this week?
All right, so actually just before this, I got off a call with a client who actually worked with him before, and he's made leaps and bounds in certain areas, but there's this one piece of his relationship with, I guess, the mother of his child that he's really been struggling to figure out how to move forward with. There's a part of him that wants to get back together romantically. There's a part of him that wants to just move on, and really, part of my job is reflecting back patterns and introducing just the raw honesty of, like, these are the things that you're stating and you're repeating, and these are the contradictions that you're making. And through that, we actually kind of illuminated that he's been taking for granted a lot of the different ways that she's been crossing his boundaries, disrespecting him. And he's been noticing these things for such a long time. But the question is, and he even asked this to himself, why does he continue to deal with this? I've actually dealt with this before with executive clients. Why do they continue to deal with certain people that are undermining their authority in management or not carrying their weight? And the whole team then looks at the boss to do something about it, but the boss protects them. And in this situation, my client was still justifying and protecting her. So the question is, how are you able to measure when enough is enough with a certain person? When do you begin to do things differently? Because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And unfortunately, a lot of people that go to a coach have been trying to do the same thing over and over again and are at a loss for words. So he's got a bunch of good exercises to kind of work on. And really what we're all here to do, including with this podcast, is to help bring awareness. So I think my biggest story from this is he's walking into the next 2 weeks before we touch base again with a greater awareness, and ideally he begins to learn how to speak up and protect his boundaries and protect his self-respect rather than letting that come over him based on some of the strategies we talked about. So that was a really nice one that just applies to so many ways when dealing with people.
It's huge. I love it, man. Go ahead, Kobi.
Yeah, that's a great one, man. I appreciate you sharing that. Listen, on my side here, health coach. As one thing that's come up, a theme that I've noticed this week is the idea of being intentional with goals that you're setting when it comes to your health. And that intentionality helps provide clarity around kind of the things that you consume. Let me give an example. Whether you're prioritizing for aesthetics, performance, vitality, longevity in your life matters as to the steps that you're going to take. And it also helps you when you see different content, whether it be on TV, Instagram, YouTube, newspaper, magazines, etc. You can better distinguish whether this is for me or this is not for me. Let me give you an example. If you're optimizing for performance and you see an aesthetic-based content being put out on Instagram, that's probably not for you because those are two very different things. You see an individual that looks cut up and shred up and you say, hi, listen, I want to be like that, when you're really pushing for performance, you're going to get thrown off track. Now, I know this for myself, even as a coach, is oftentimes I look at things, I get distracted, like, man, I could do that. Let me try to do that. When you're on a 12-week plan or to improve a particular aspect of your health, you got to decide. It's important to know what the differences are, right? And you got to decide what is it that you want. You can have everything. You just can't have everything right now. And you got to work towards whatever it is that you want to work towards health-wise and be systematic about how you go about it. So take a year. Within a year, you could train performance, aesthetics, and train in terms of improving your vitality and your longevity. But you can't do all of them at the exact same time because there are certain principles and certain ways you go about doing some things that may conflict with the other. All right. So I think it's incredibly important. People get confused. I see this a lot with clients, with potential clients, with people that are not yet clients. They get confused as to, well, I thought I should do this, or I read this here, or I heard this here, or well, this person over here does this. Yes, because they don't have the same goal you do, right? They're not coming from where you're coming from. They're not trying to do the things that you're trying to do. So you have to do it differently. And this is why it's important, guys, to work with somebody that knows what they're talking about and to work with them consistently enough to get you where you want to go. There's a big difference between getting a plan from somebody versus sitting down with somebody and saying, hey, these are my goals. How do I optimize my lifestyle to get me there within this period of time? It's a very different process. And we all know things. We all know things about health. That doesn't mean that we are equipped to coach ourselves, right? And that I say become your own coach, as in learn from somebody. Go grab somebody that knows what you're talking about and put a plan together. Getting one tip from them isn't going to carry you the rest of the way. And that's why you invest in coaching, guys.
Man, that is awesome. Drop the mic on that one. Or wait. That's it, guys. Hey, both of those takeaways, guys, I super appreciate, Stu resonating some of those things that you said as far as the definition of insanity right? The definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. And then the key word that we always talk about here on The Good Life, awareness. Those two things, again, just they resonate so much, even in what we're talking about on the money side. Same thing could be, again, a lot of people don't know, or maybe people are starting to catch on that like health and wealth are so intertwined, right? How you look at your health, how you build your wealth, how you look at your financial life, how you look at your health journey, all those things are so intertwined. Some of the same principles and keys that you would do in your health life or in your health journey, you would do in your financial life, or you should apply in your financial life. One of the big things as to the reason why you have a coach is because in the money space, everybody thinks they know money. I always joke with people that the downside of our business is everyone's a money expert, right? Like they don't value what you might say because everyone deals with money. Everyone has been dealing with their own money. So they're their own expert when it comes to money. Yet, if you look at it, most people aren't happy where they are financially. So that means they're not really the expert. They just have been handling it and dealing with it. But that's why you need the coach. That's why you need someone to bring the awareness to you about what's happening with your money and what your habits are with your money. The conversation I've been having over this past week, and it's going to dive right into what we're going to talk about tonight, because we're going to have a real, again, 101 level money conversation, right? That's what we're going to have tonight. But a lot of this stuff all ties together with some of the stuff that I've been talking about with people this week. And it's really diving in and understanding everything that's happening with your money. I don't think we understand fully how powerful it is to look at our money and view our money, inspect our money. This is what we have to start to really put in place in order for us to get to where we want to go financially. This is a conversation I've been having with people over the past week, just about being aware. The stock market is slipping. People's cryptocurrency portfolios are slipping, but they stop looking at them, right? They stop looking at them. They can't handle it emotionally to look at these things, but you've got to continue to look at your money. It's the only way that we get better, having that awareness around it, and then starting to do new things, taking in new perspectives, getting a coach, getting somebody to guide you through your financial journey, not your uncle, right? Not the rich person in your family, right? Just because they all had a different path, just like could be said with their health. They might start at a different place. So the information that they give you may not pertain to you. And because they're not a professional in it, they're just giving off of their experience. And you might not be there. It might not be something that you can actually apply right now. So that's why finding a coach, finding someone to guide you down the path that you trust is so incredibly important, so that you can get your financial life in order. So I appreciate you guys on those client takeaways.
Yeah, thank you for yours, man. I think the themes of awareness and intention really do apply to all of us, because the reason why you go to a coach versus a consultant is because you're trying to have somebody cultivate your own decisions of how you want to spend your money, how you want to take care of your body, what you want to do with your life. It's different for everybody. Just because you got that rich uncle or somebody down the street with a six-pack, they may want to live a completely different lifestyle. You know, the consultant's advice from one person to the next has to change if they're not going to take into consideration how somebody wants to live a different lifestyle. Then what's the point? It's not going to fit for you. So we're here to help cultivate what you want to do and how you want to make your life different.
So good. I think that's a great time to segue and pause and let everybody know that we have our mid-year event coming up. It's coming up July 24th. We're solidifying all of it. It's a virtual event. We held our first one early in the year, and now we're coming back to give you guys even more, because again, this is the type of stuff that we want to do with you in an intimate setting, in a group setting, even in a one-on-one setting, where you can get all of the information you need around health, around wealth building, around your mindset and your personal relationships and those things, so that you can get to the good life, so that you can design the life that you want. And so down there scrolling, you guys see it. Feel free to register and sign up for that event. There's a bit.ly link down there, bit.ly/TGL mid-year. It's our mid-year event. So bit.ly/TGL mid-year. You can sign up. I think we're doing a raffle. I don't remember the details, but stay tuned. We'll let you guys know. Do you guys remember the details of the raffle? Yes, no.
The details of the raffle is if you sign up early, you will potentially win something.
There we go. You're going to get into a raffle if you sign up early, and we'll let you know all those dates. But we just want to throw it out there because we want you to spread the word, spread the message, join us. If you were there for the first one, you know how awesome it was and how much value you got out of it. So we're going to make this one 10 times better so you can walk away with all the keys that you need to design that life. So on to the show, guys, like the meat of the show. I told you we're going to have a money conversation. I get super fired up for money conversations. But before we dive into the money conversation, let's talk about, let's have a segment. Let's play some over under. You guys down to play some over under?
Hey, I love over under.
I'm going to just throw these out because these are some financial topics that are going to lead us into our discussion tonight. We're going to, again, talk 101, talk budgeting, talk what do you do with your money, some of the basics. It's the beginning of the month. At the beginning of the month, it's always good to have these conversations, right? But let's dive into some headlines. I want to see how tuned in or locked in you guys are on what's happening with money and personal finance out there. So here's one question. I'm going to throw out a number. You guys tell me, is it over this number? Is it under this number? Here's a quick one. How much is the S&P down? The S&P 500, how much is it down year to date? Is it over or under 10%? What do you think? The S&P 500, how much is it down year to date, over or under 10%?
You know, that's a great question. I'm going to go with noise on this one because, you know, get into the right places, stick there, have your exit plan, and be your own bank. It don't matter.
Play the game, Kobi. The game
fine.
is not news or noise.
It is 10% S&P 500.
Correct, sir.
Let's go over.
Over. Stu, what do you say? Over or under 10% that the S&P is down year to date?
You're muted, brother.
You are muted. So,
well, look at that. So I'm thinking over for two reasons. One, inflation's at 15. There's all kind. No, I actually said over. I was muted. I beat it too, but no one knows now unless they were reading my lips. So here's the thing. I'm saying over because one, inflation is I think at about 15% now, and two, there's so much noise about this. It actually seems almost as loud as getting close to like the whole 2008 crash and everything.
Absolutely. You're both correct. It's actually just slightly over. It's down 12%, right? So down 12%, not 10, but 12.3 or something like that. But either way, it is a bunch.
Burning.
I know, right? It's a bunch of noise. It can be news for some people. Not trying to be insensitive to those of you that are losing money. Like I said, the retiree community, the pre-retiree community, really freaking out right now. Not a great feeling. You can always reach out to your trusted financial coach, financial planner to help you through. I would not always reach out to your financial advisor. I know that's a controversial thing to say, but their job is to keep you in the market because that's how they make their money. And they're going to tell you that it's all good. That's what they're going to keep telling you. So you might want to get a second or third opinion if you're freaking out. But either way, it's a bunch of noise because just like Kobi said, if you have the right strategies, if we're not talking like you're about to get off the roller coaster, you're at the end of the line. If you're just in the midst of things, well, guess what? We're going to have ups and downs in your investment life, ladies and gentlemen. That's just the way it goes. You're going to have ups and downs. The question is, were you prepared? Do you have some of the other basics that we're going to talk about today in place so you don't feel the losses or realize the losses? You can just go in and start buying low, just like you're supposed to. So it is down 12% though, just so everyone knows. Okay, another over under. The percentage of parents that say that they almost or never talk to their kids about money, over or under 20%. The percent of parents that say they never talk to their kids about money.
Definitely over 20%.
Definitely over. Stu?
Unless they're lying.
I'm just so alarmed at how quickly and confidently you said that. I would have said under, but it was a big discussion in my family. It's still a fucking discussion in my family.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so is your answer under?
I'm gonna stick with under. Unconfidently.
Unconfidently.
Yeah.
It is over, but it's slightly over 25%. 25% of parents say that they never talk to their kids about money. 1 out of every 4 parents say, I just choose to not have that conversation ever.
Why? My question to these people is, what are you doing? Are you trying to raise a child into an adult? Like, why not have the conversation? I would love to hear anyone that doesn't have this conversation with their kids. Just please tell us why. Is it inconvenient? These are vitally important things in our society.
This is not dinner room conversation, my friend. It's unpleasant. We just don't, we don't discuss these things.
God.
Different families, different customs, right?
Yeah, bro. But I actually thought it was higher, to be honest. But yeah, 25% seems about right.
Yeah.
Some of those parents are lying. Some of that 75% are lying for sure.
For sure.
And if they are talking about them, we're not even discussing the quality of the talk.
Yeah, the quality of the talk is huge too. But at least, like, are you trying? I mean, like, we talk about, like, all parents theoretically want to do a good job for their kids. Theoretically, we're hoping that. I'm going to make that assumption right now. If you want to do a good job raising your kid, our whole world revolves around money. It's unfortunate that it's like this. But right now, in most societies that we're familiar with, at least in America and some other quote unquote first worlds, without a knowledge of money, you cannot be a successful adult. You have to understand the budgeting and all the one-on-one stuff we're going to go into today. So I'm just shocked.
Listen, it's how we're raised, Stu. It's great that you have that perspective. You can see that, like, how crucial this conversation is, and kudos to your parents for seeing how crucial that conversation was. What I've experienced and what I've seen on the other side is when the parent is not comfortable because they don't have the knowledge, then there's nothing to teach. Right? What can you teach?
So it's like an insecurity type thing?
Absolutely. There's a form of it that's insecurity. There's a form of it that's passed down that if your parents never had the conversation, kind of like could be alluded to around, like, this isn't dinner, right? This isn't the conversation we have at the dinner table. This isn't the time for the conversation. When they shut down those conversations and then you live the same life in the same custom, well, then you shut down those conversations as well. They're just not had, right? So it can be either side. It can be this is passed down from family. It could be, I just don't know money that well enough to teach. You can't teach your children something that you're not or that you don't have. Right. So if you don't know anything about it, like, how could you give it to them? It's important, but you're not doing well.
As a parent, you can try and learn it and do something. You can at least direct your kid to some resources. Like, maybe, I don't know if I'm trying to beat up on this 75, what was it, 25% that does not?
25%.
But, like, what are you trying to prepare your kids for? What's the point of what you're doing? Or, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff that you might be doing well, but, like, at least get them aware that they need to be aware of it. You may not have to designate yourself as this guru.
Yeah.
But man, it's vital.
It's tough.
It is extremely helpful to have that type of foundation coming out of college, even going into college, which I don't even recommend for most people anymore.
Yeah.
But that's my rant.
Could be.
Yeah, bro. I don't know what to tell you. I don't think, I hear you, agree, but I've just seen the reality. So
yeah, not disagreeing with the reality. I guess just confused about the intention to
yeah, for sure.
It'll probably just come more from the intentions probably coming from a place of insecurities or, like, just lack of knowledge, lack of the ability to do it. So, but that's what we're here to do, right? Like, these are the conversations. If there's a parent listening right now and you're not having, I literally just did a series on LinkedIn for the month of April where we introduced a bunch of children's financial literacy resources to you. So if you don't have the information yourself, look on my LinkedIn page. There's a bunch of resources there where you can go and you can find people that have things for your children to learn money if you don't do it yourself. I will recommend the parents, you should sit down and learn some of this stuff too. It's probably going to suit you well. So
yeah, dude, I love that. That's an awesome resource, Chris.
Absolutely. We have
Let's get it, Himbo.
Let's get it. Let's get it. All right. So that was 2 down on over under. Here's another one. Percent of people that do not save money. The percent of people that do not save money, over or under 40%. Over or under 40% that do not save.
Easy over for me.
The over.
That do not save money.
Correct.
Let's go with the under on this one.
Ooh, very intuitive, sir. It is under. 29.2% of people do not save money. So almost 30%. Almost 3 out of 10 people that you know are not actively saving money.
Gosh, I'm good at this game.
Yeah, I'm like 1 in 3. 1 in 3 right now.
It's good. You know
that
people.
That is good. You know, the sample size of people that I know, I don't know, man. It seems like it's a lot higher than that as far as people that do not save. I've gone through seasons of both. Sometimes you just live life on the edge. Do not recommend it, but trying to like buck off the rules and like actually live your own life. Maybe you don't do it for a while.
Yeah.
But it's vitally important. I thought it would be higher. That's good to hear.
Yep. Almost 30%. Either way, that was good. Here's another one. I got a couple more for you. Here's another one for you. The percent of people earning a salary more than $100,000 a year that live paycheck to paycheck. Over or under 25%.
Over.
Percent of people earning a salary more than $100,000 a year that live paycheck to paycheck. Over. Under 25.
No question.
Said over.
I wouldn't have known the answer to this, but just because you're asking it that way, it's got to be over. Like you're trying to drive home a point right now.
No, I'm not.
I feel it.
It's under. It's 18%.
Wrong again. God,
it's 18%.
Over 100,000 that live paycheck to paycheck, huh?
Almost 2 out of every 10. Take 2 out of every 10 people that are making over $100,000 a year are actually still living paycheck to paycheck. Now, that is it's a 2019 study. So like I got this so that number might actually be different. I would guess probably
different.
Yeah, in the 2022, it's probably going to be a little bit higher. I just couldn't find that number. But if you think about it in that ballpark, 1 out of 5, right? Like 20%. 1 out of 5 people that make 6 figures are living paycheck to paycheck. Meaning if they miss 2 of their paychecks, they would go into debt. They would, right, like be negative in their net worth, so to speak. So is that startling to you? You thought it would be higher, huh?
Yeah, I thought it would be higher. In San Francisco, that's 5 out of 5.
He's not joking though. That's what's funny about it. I know. And this is a great conversation that, you know, because we're going to have a mixed bag of people that listen to this. There's some people that they aspire to make 6 figures, right? I'll be honest, a lot of our market of the people that we really sit down and help, they don't make 6 figures yet. And they aspire to 6 figures. They aspire to get to that place because they believe that once they're there, their things are going to be good. And I always remind them, I say, I work with people that make 300 grand a year that live paycheck to paycheck. Like, it's just a real thing, because here's the key. It's not about how much money you make. It's about how much money you keep. That's it. At the end of the day, if you make $1 million and your expenses are $1 million, you're still paycheck to paycheck. It really doesn't matter how high that number goes. So it's all about how much you keep and not about how much you're actually making. But to know that in certain parts of the country, yeah, it's a high percentage of people that still live paycheck to paycheck. Just because you earn a high income or make a high wage does not mean that you are financially, sound enough to make sure that you don't raise your expenses, those living expenses, with that income, because that's what most people do. Generational creep.
So yeah, I'm so glad you touched on that, because I can imagine a lot of people that have never made six figures that may look at that and be like, oh my God, how? If I had that much money, like, oh my gosh, I'd be just rolling in dough. But I was trained by somebody at a previous company that basically believed deeply in his mind, like, raises and promotions and extra bonuses don't really matter, because at the end of the day, you make more, you're going to spend more. And I remember thinking about that, and I was like, that's terrible. That's like, that wasn't even like a consideration. That's like a core belief. That's just is what it is. There's no changing it. And this very narrow-minded thinking or closed-minded thinking of, I'll never be able to change this. The more I make, the more I'll spend. Like, and I think my question to people that maybe find themselves trapped in that is, what are you trying to achieve by spending more? Like, what is your intention behind that, to go back to that theme for tonight? Because you'd be surprised just how little money you need to be happy.
Yeah.
I would say I don't think there's an intention set most of the time. I think most of the time is just kind of a lack of awareness as to the fact that your way of living has gotten more expensive just because, right? It's kind of similar as when you loosen the belt, you'll eat more. And it's not really, you didn't loosen the belt to eat more. It's just like, oh, well, I have more room. There's nothing pushing back on me yet, right? There's no stress yet. There's nothing. And so, and when you're not paying attention, you're not aware you're not scrutinizing the numbers. Next thing you know, you're like, wait, I make more. Why don't I have more money? And you look at it, you're like, oh, because my expenses have gone up. Like, what did I spend it on? Right. An extra this here, an extra this here, an extra this here. So I don't really think there's an intention. If I'm being, if we're doing over and under, I think 75% of the time, I don't think there's an intention of like, I'm going to spend more, because of this. I don't think I don't think that's the case at all.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know a lot of people that like to spend money and show off down here in South Florida, but it's only a small percentage of the country.
Yeah. But that's where your question would definitely resonate, right? Like, what are you spending money for? Something that I'll probably touch on at the end of the show is knowing that, like, we spend money in the areas that we value the most. That's it. Right? We spend money in the areas that we value the most, that we believe are bringing something to our life or bringing us a feeling that we want to experience. That's basically why we spend our money. You know what I mean? And so that's different for everybody. It's different for everybody. So yeah, some people might like to buy cars or clothes to show significance of, right, what they do or who they are. And some people prefer not. Some people prefer to invest in experiences or vacations or their home or their children or their business or whatever the case is, right? It's really just where you value. It's really what you value. So understanding that, like, that mindset of the more you make, the more you're going to spend, it really comes down to what you start valuing, right? You start valuing different things as you believe you make more money. You value your living space a bit more, right? You value the car you drive a bit more. I mean, you can't be a lawyer and drive a Kia, right? You can't be a lawyer and drive a Honda. That wouldn't fit who you are, right? That becomes like psychologically kind of how we think about things. And that's where then our money starts going. And right, you make more and your expenses go up. It's natural. We try to curtail that by saying, create your values right away. What's important? What's the vision? What do you want this money for? What are you trying to achieve? Because just like you said, Stu, a lot of people don't understand you can live off of a lot less than you think, a lot less than what you think can make you happy. You know what I mean? So it's really about that vision of what you want to do, you use the money for. But we're going to touch on that at the end. Two more. Over under. The amount of consumer debt in America, right? The amount of consumer debt. That's mortgages, credit cards, student loans, car loans. The amount of consumer debt in America, over under 10 trillion. Over under 10 trillion consumer debt, mortgages, credit cards, student loans, car loans. total.
What year? What year?
2020. This is a 2021 survey. 2021 survey.
Okay. Over.
Kobi says over.
I think I'd say over.
Stu says over. Over it is. 13.86 trillion. 13, almost $14 trillion in consumer debt. 2021 survey. Mortgages, credit cards, student loans, car loans.
You look at a mortgage, like if a, you know, I feel like actually, I'm really curious about this. I don't know what percentage of adults have a mortgage, but right there, you're looking at six figures. You got 300 million people in the States times 100,000 just for a mortgage. I mean, you're already barking at that real quick. So,
yeah, we're a nation full of debt. It's coming to a head. We talked about it a couple episodes ago, right? A couple episodes ago, we talked about where the economy's at and what's about to happen. That debt's not just going to go away, ladies and gentlemen. Our country is 27 trillion in debt. Half of that debt is we have consumer debt. That's half of that, and we're not making any more money.
Fun times.
Fun times.
It's not scary at all.
Not even a little bit.
Not
Nope.
a bit.
Not a bit. Not
Good
a bit.
to go.
Good to go.
But you know, the thing is, that's not going to stop. And that fundamental understanding, for me, when I had that fundamental shift, and knowing beyond a shadow of a doubt that that's not going to stop, it changed how I looked at things.
How so?
Because if you know that to be the case, now you can backtrack as to different political decisions, different different how to invest, right? What to do with money. I mean, it's a huge shift.
Yeah. I mean,
and not just is it not going to stop, it cannot stop, because if you look deep into that debt, if it stops, everything collapses. If it stops rolling in that direction, everything collapses. And I'm not going to go too deep in here. I'm not an economist, but I know enough to know. I know enough to know that if that snowball stops, everything stops. Just look at the look at the real estate market in and of itself. Just that alone. So anyway, that I think that to me informs how I look at a lot of major things that are occurring, right? So how is this thing continuing to roll, yet we have 370 billion to give to this person and 800 million to give to this person and 500 billion? Like, the US is Oprah, but broke Oprah. You know what I mean? It makes no sense, because that hasn't stopped. The continuous handing out of money hasn't stopped yet, and the debt isn't stopping. And so, I mean, none of it makes any sense. And the quote unquote the investments that are supposed to be saving us in the stock market, none of it is correlated. So it's all disjointed. So when I look at all that, I'm like, listen, I'm not going deep into the economics here, but like, doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense.
And that leads perfectly into kind of what we're talking about, why you need to build your financial foundation. When the whole thing looks like it's about to collapse, you have to build your moat around you. You have to build your little bubble to make sure you and your family are good. And that might not come in all of the investments and all the things that are out there. It might just come in you saying, I have a financial plan that I understand. I have cash. I have some monies that might be growing in investments, but most importantly, I have something to generate me cash as well. My cash flow is good. I have some assets. You start to put your moat around you so that if the whole thing comes tumbling down, you can still survive. You can still survive. And that's the stuff that we're talking about tonight when it comes down to, again, this money 101, this financial foundation. Like, I You guys know, if you've been following the show a bunch, that you know I believe in this kind of levels of money. Money 101 to 202, 303. Most people try to have 202 and 303 level strategies, right? We try to talk about the investing in, the offshore accounts, or the, right, that's the 303 stuff, or the tax savings and all these different types of loopholes and things, when really we got to look at some of the basic things. One of the most basic parts of your financial life, ladies and gentlemen, is what comes in and what goes out, also known as your cash flow, right? What comes in, what goes out, your income and your expenses. Because it's the beginning of the month, and those of you that are listening, right, tonight, the first of the month, by the time you hear it on the podcast, right, it'll be a couple days into the month, but we're at the beginning of a month. Anytime we're at the beginning of the month, it's kind of like a reset. You can look back on the previous month, whether you're in business and you're calculating your P&L, your expenses, your profit and loss statement, or whether it's your personal finances, where you can look back and see what happened in the month of May, do a look back and say, where did that money go? How did my investments do? Where's my savings account? What's my debt numbers? Just looking at your money. It's a look back. It's the beginning of the month. I always recommend we do this. So here's a couple basic things that we're going to talk about that's going to kind of dive into how you start to build that financial foundation and really start to, again, create that covering for yourself in case everything kind of goes to nothing. So budgeting. Many of us hear that word budgeting. Some of us don't even like that word budgeting. But all budgeting is a spending plan, right? It's just having a spending plan, understanding where your money is going. You've heard me say it a bunch of times, ladies and gentlemen, you have to inspect what you expect. So if you expect to have money left over at the end of the month, if you expect to have money to invest, then you have to inspect your money all the time. You have to inspect it constantly. You have to see what's happening with it. And so at the beginning of the month, what I always recommend is, first things first, go back in and track your money. A lot of times we don't know our money as well as we think we do. We have a ballpark understanding of where our money goes. Many of us know what we call our fixed expenses very well. You know your mortgage. You know what rent is. You know what your car insurance is. You know what your cell phone bill is. You know what your credit card payment or your student loan payment, or, right, your Ubers. You know basic things that are the major bills. But when it comes to tracking your money and really getting good with the money that's coming in and going out, you got to look at your variable expenses. That's the place that many times we don't think about. And again, guys, this is simple. This is money 101. Some of you, this like, yeah, I got it, right? I understand how to look at my money. Like, I got it. But some people don't. Some people just know ballpark numbers about their money. But if you ask them, how much specifically did you spend last month on Amazon? You don't actually know. You got a ballpark, $400 some dollars maybe. But did you know that it was $572.37? That's the difference between, right, having your money where it's at and then kind of getting it to where you want it to be. You got to know specifics. You got to inspect the money. So go back in, track your money, track the variable expenses, the things that fluctuate every month, the Amazons, right? The miscellaneous Target, Walmart, those types of places that we have to spend money to get things. The dining out part. How many times are we going out to eat? And again, this is not meant to be like, oh, don't drink your Starbucks. I'm not one of those, right? Like, saving $5 a week is not going to build your wealth. But knowing how much went to Starbucks last month is important. That's the difference. It's not about necessarily cutting it out. It's about saying, well, do you know how much went there? Was it 60? Was it 160? Was it $360? Like, how much was it? And then knowing that number. When you start tracking your variable expenses, you start to see your habits. Our money is controlled by our habits, ladies and gentlemen. That's it. Because everyone makes about the same amount of money every month, you spend about the same amount of money every month. Because you typically live in the same places, frequent the same places on a monthly basis, you spend about the same amounts in those places you frequent every month. We're habitual creatures when it comes to money. So all you got to do is look at the money and see exactly where it's going. That is foundational, like 101, to make sure you understand your money. no matter how much is coming in. We just touched on it. You know, this is how people get to that place where they say, I make $250,000 a year and I spend $250,000 a year. That's how they get to that place, is because they didn't know what the variable expenses were. The variable expenses kept creeping up, and it just, right, it went in the same pace as their income. So we got to make sure we plug up those holes. That is the key, starting to track that money. Guys, I'll let you two jump in on that tracking money part. How important is that? Have you seen that in your own spending, or like, has that been something that's helped you or somebody that you know?
Yeah, I'll hop right in there. Definitely something has helped me. And whenever, and this kind of goes to my comment earlier as to the intention, right? And whenever I find that, oh man, we're not, my wife and I, we're not saving as much as we'd like, or we're not investing as much as we like. Although those are automatic at this point, but in the sense of when things start to kind of disappear or not go to track, it's always the variables. It's always the variables, and it's usually correlated with not paying attention or not tracking it as closely as I have in the past. Getting a little relaxed, right? Getting a little cool. Oh, we're good, yeah, we do the budget on the first. Yeah, but we were traveling this month. It's all good, We spend a little extra on gifts because it's X's birthday or X Christmas, or we break the budget a little bit for that. So I think that's where I speak of, like, it's not like we set out to be like, we're gonna go spend more money to show the Joneses. Nah, it's just like, we're using credit cards and, like, you know what I mean? So it's not like the credit card ain't gonna say no. There's a lot on the credit card, but at the end of the month, when it's time to pay off the card, and you're like, oh, what? We spent how much on what? 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 About $250 worth of flowers for who? You know what I mean? So it's kind of like stuff like that, and I think you hit it on the head. It's like continuing to be diligent about inspecting the money is, I think that's critical.
It's huge.
On the personal side, I want to address this on personal and business for me based on my experiences. The more frequently I look at my money, the more consciously I make decisions about how to spend my money. That's about as plainly as I can put it. What's always interesting is every time I hear you talk, Chris, I'm motivated to inspect more, like to get further down into the weeds, which can only really help me, especially on a small business budget. On the business side of things, actively going in on like a weekly basis and just diving through income and expenses, it is the most informative and just relaxing thing you can do. When you first start, it's kind of gross. Mm-hmm. You really don't want to look at it. You've been avoiding it for a while. It's just baggage. Like, I don't really want to know what's going on in the hood. But then you start to realize, like, man, I spent this much on this type of marketing, but how much did I actually get from that? And that's when you start to make really, really powerful decisions as a business owner. So I think, however you want to look at this, personal or business, you got at least two testimonials, and it sounds like Chris is the third, where the more you look at it, the smarter choices you're going to make. Right. And it sucks to start that habit. It's not fun, but it's really, really worth it. So I think that's probably just my 2 cents right there.
That's huge, man. That's huge. And I appreciate both of those insights. And it's true. I'm glad you brought the business side in, Stu, because I always tell people, if you can't run your own personal financial life, you're not going to be able to run your businesses. It's all the same habits. It's all the same types of things. And exactly what you said, when you start to inspect your expenses on the business side, you start to make better business decisions. I paid $700 last month on this marketing thing, but I didn't get any leads. Man, I've been doing this for 3 months and I haven't gotten any. Could I spend that $700 somewhere else? Could it go to this instead? Maybe I do that. Only by inspecting, only by paying attention to what's happening. Same thing on the personal side. When you start seeing, like, man, I'm spending a bunch on Amazon. Like, there's really a lot going to this. Can I move some of this back? Like, can I save $400, $500 here? Like, I don't have to cut it completely out, but can I make a better choice? Is there an easier way? Should I get a credit card to, like, this is a 202 level stuff, right? Should I get a credit card that gives me Amazon cashback rewards, right? So if I am going to spend it, at least I get something back. There's all types of ways to then play around to make sure that you are doing the right things in your financial life once you inspect it. So that's a huge point, again, for that foundational part. After you're tracking your money and you do that look back, then we start doing the forward look and say, okay, let's put a spending plan in for all those variable things. You dive in and you start to see month after month, you're spending a bit more in an area than you would like. Well, just like dieting or dealing in your health, right? Where you're not going to completely cut it out. It's not just going to go wipe it all away tomorrow. We have to slowly kind of take it away and taper it away. So if you're spending $800 a month in a certain area, maybe you say, you know what, I'm only going to do $600 this month. That extra $200 is going to go towards me knocking out some debt or going into more saving and investing. But that extra $200 that I found from my own spending, now I can put it into a better place, and I'm keeping myself on a budget, so to speak. Then we start to track that money moving forward. If $600 in that category is your budget, so to speak, then every week or 2 weeks, look at your bank account, see, are you under your budget? If you do it every 2 weeks, it means you should have less than $300 that you've spent in that area if 600 was the budget. So just check, make sure you're on pace. If you're not on pace, cut yourself off a little bit more on the second half of the month. But regardless, the reason we're doing this is to take that extra money and put it in a place that's going to get us more secure. The reason we go on a budget or put ourselves on a spending plan is so we can take the discretionary money and put it into the places that will make us more secure and or continue to kind of add towards the things that we find value in. That's it. That's why we do this process. So again, that's the foundational thing of, if you haven't budgeted, if you don't like the word budget, if you just don't really think about it, or it's some baggage that's set aside, start by just looking at last month, tracking your money, making sure that you understand what is going where from a business standpoint and a personal standpoint. Once you have good numbers that this is about what you spend, if you're not happy with it in a certain area, cut it down a bit. Cut it down 20%, cut it down 30%, and then let that be your marker that you start to track on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. Take that extra money, that discretionary monies, and put it into the places that are then going to secure you. Short-term savings, mid-term or long-term investments, and paying off any debts. That's the key. Questions on that, guys? It's pretty straightforward, yeah?
I think a takeaway rather than a question.
Yeah.
I did a workshop on time management last night. And for anybody that's avoiding this, perhaps scheduling time in either your day or week in the calendar to sit down and do this. Perhaps that is a way you can cultivate this habit. As you were talking about that, Chris, that's something that I'm actually going to go into further detail on and kind of break out time on a weekly, daily basis for personal and business finance review, more so than what I've been doing. So thank you.
You're welcome, man. And I encourage everyone to do exactly what Stu said. It's the number one thing I tell people. You've got to schedule this in. Anything that you value, you've got to schedule in time to do it. All this takes is an hour to 2 hours on a bi-weekly or monthly basis, depending on how much you really want to dive in. You should be looking at your bank and your investments and your savings and things on a daily basis, but you don't have to dive in as much. But to dive in and do this type of stuff on a weekly, bi-weekly basis, that's what you're going to want to be able to do. And set that time aside. Take the hour or 2 hours just to dive in. It's going to bless your life. I promise. Go ahead, Kobi.
Yeah, I was going to say, woohoo. I was going to say, for me, a takeaway is just a reminder to tighten up, that's really it is. I have a few things, these things in place. There is this thing on my calendar. Sometimes, there's two involved. We can't both get to the table right now, so we'll just do it later, right? So it's kind of a little bit of that as well. But just to tighten up, especially we got got things coming up, got a move coming up, a few other things coming up. It's time to really tighten a few things up, and because there's more juice to be squeezed, if you will. There's more juice to be squeezed, and just because the house isn't on fire doesn't mean that there isn't improvement to be made.
That's right. That's right. Noah built an ark. Didn't rain for 40 years. Right?
I thought it was 40 days.
I thought no, it
Was it 40 years?
for him to build the
It
ark.
rained for 40 days.
Yeah, it rained for 40. It took him 40 to build the ark.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. You are absolutely right. I don't know what I was thinking, man.
Yeah. So
Too many 40s. Too many 40s.
Too many 40s.
Hey.
Hey,
Edward
to the
Scissorhands.
head. To the head. Anyway, yeah. So that is
Come on, brother Ferris.
I know, right?
Come on, brother Ben.
That again, foundational stuff, tightening up on your money, inspecting it. Okay. So I think everyone kind of understands that side of it. Before we kind of wrap up this conversation, I want to take that kind of 202, maybe even that 1.5, 105 class, right? That 105 class. What happens? This is a question that I know gets posed a lot. What happens? Here's when you have all of the foundational things. Your cash flow is good, right? You're not necessarily worried about the income and expenses. Maybe you're living off of, 40 to 70% of your income. That's what you're living off of, and you're able to save the rest of it, right? Imagine you do want to get to a place, because there are levels to it, ladies and gentlemen, where you can get to a place where you're saving, only living off of 50% of your income. You get to a good place, maybe you can only live off of 25% of your income. If anyone has seen that Shaq video, there's a Shaq reel or something out there where he talks about how he learned money from a wealthy guy that said, hey, you take this bill, right? If this is the money, the check that you make, he said, rip it in half, save this, right? So 50%, save it. And he said, you can really most people go out and spend this and do something with this 50%. He said, what rich people do is they split that 50% in half. They go invest or save that as well, and they live off of that 25%, right? So depends on what level you are, how much income is coming in, but the goal, so that you do not live paycheck to paycheck, is going to be that you live off of way less than you need, right? Like way less than what's coming in. So if that could be 50% of your income, if that could be 25% of your income, amazing. But that would be that next level up, right? To understand that, okay, let me just keep knocking these expenses down, because then more of that money can start going to the places that you want to go. All right. So making sure that you are thinking about living off of less, keeping those expenses low. But then what else do you start putting your money into? After your cash flow is good, you got some short-term savings, right? You got 6 months emergency fund set aside. You're good there. You're not really in any consumer debt, or, you're leveraging your debt. If you're bringing in, you got a mortgage or something like that, or, some rental properties, you're leveraging your debt. All those things are in place. Well, then what do you start doing? Where do you keep investing or budgeting your money, right? What should go where? This is the only thing that I tell people. Normally, your money's going to go to the places that you value the most. If that is your health, if you value your health, then you should make an investment in your health. Kabi will tell you this, right? Having a good juicer is an investment in your health. Having a proper water supply, having proper water is an investment in your health. I'm sure Kabi would tell you there's probably not much of a limit that he would, right, go to spending on those things because it's something that he values. But take someone else, they might not think about putting $400 investment into a juicer. They might not think that because they might not value it. It might be at the same income, but they might not value it. So your money's going to flow to the places that you value the most. There's a standard that I've heard that 3% of your income, 3% of your income should go back into your own personal growth, personal development, whatever that is for you. If it's an athlete, LeBron James is probably one of the most notable people. We've actually probably talked about him here, but he invests back into his body, something around the tunes of $1 to $2 million a year back into his body, meaning from physical therapy to all types of strength training, coaches, all types of programs. Like that's his investment back into his body because he's an athlete. So his body is important for him being able to produce income and make money. So that's why he invests back into it. Well, if you're an entrepreneur that you're listening to this, or even if you're just, you're an employee and you have a job, investing back into yourself so that you can continue to grow, make more money, become more valuable to the marketplace. That's going to be important. They say a standard, maybe 3% of your income. 3% of your income. You make $100,000 a year, that's $3,000. So if you make $100,000 a year, in that year, $3,000 should go back into books, audios, webinars, actual seminars, retreats, those types of things that are going to personally grow you. 3% is like that nice number. If you value it more, put more in, right? You value your personal growth and personal development more, put 5% in. But there should be something allotted to your personal growth, personal development inside, like for you growing. Okay. That comes in that, again, the books, audios, webinars, that type of stuff. And then everything after that is really an investment in what you see in the future. If anyone believes they have a spending problem, or right, if they have extra money, it goes towards spending, it's probably because you have a vision problem. Because if you have that vision, if you have hope for the future and you understand that the future is going to be better than your present, then you would start putting money into those places to ensure that that's the possibility, that that's actually going to happen. So anything over the amounts that you already have kind of set aside in your budget should just go to the things you value. If that means more long-term savings and investing, then do that. We talked about the stock market a bit. Well, if you're 27 and you believe that the stock market is going to come back around, then keep buying up stocks and keep going that direction. You don't have to listen to everybody else. Like, you can keep doing that if that's important to you. If starting a business is important, pull some money off on the side and start your business idea. Start to actually learn about your business. Take some courses, take some classes, get around some people, invest in that side of things. But once you have your basics, it's really just about where you value. Wherever you value, that's where your money's going to go. That personal development 3% rule is just good. I think you can implement that. But outside of that, it's really a personal preference.
Chris, I'll jump in right here for a second. I think it's easier for people to conceptualize, especially in the entrepreneurship route. This crowd we talk to, and even office athletes, for example, right? It's easier for them to conceptualize, the mental development aspect of things, right? Learning more, and that being an asset to them because, obviously we work with our brains and not our bodies. And I used to be like that, right? You guys know I read a lot. I'm a prolific reader. Right? I read a lot. I was literally known for that, right? And I go to a lot of seminars, a lot of conferences. I really do invest in that aspect of myself. So don't think I'm poo-pooing that in any way, shape, or form. I think you should. But when we say personal development stuff, first and foremost, I think there's a limit. I think there's a cup, and we fill it to the brim. And at some point, it's really about execution, not about development, right? And I think I see a lot of people who fall into that path of like they're developing, but what are you developing? You're not doing anything with all the stuff that you're developing, right? And I'll say that people undervalue their bodies. They're undervalued that LeBron James is not the only person that should be spending money on upkeep in their physical body. The physical body and the mind, as we know it, guys, they are very intertwined. And your ability to produce is not just what you know up here in this cage. Your ability to produce is also tied directly and probably more tied to your energy, right? We've all heard about sick days, right? Okay, so there's sick days for a reason, because when you are sick, you cannot go to work and produce for most of us. For most office athletes, when you are sick, You either cannot go to work, or when you go to work, you're not going to be able to produce at the level that you need to produce at. And that happens. And there's plenty of people that are going to work that are underproducing because their bodies are falling apart. Okay. So I would say, listen, if you want to take that 3%, I would take half of that and put it into your body. I would take half of that and put it into your body. Because what happens is we look around and we say, what? Spend how much for what? Right. And when I talk to so many people who bucket the idea of spending a couple $100s on their body, that's insane to me. That is insane to me. Right. Because when your body falls apart, when it's too late, we'll write any check to get it back. Right. That makes no financial sense. That we wait for our bodies to fall apart and then we'll write any check. Why? Because we have insurance and insurance will take care of it. Not always, guys. And in fact, the things that they take care of, that's a whole nother conversation. They ain't taking care of the things that will actually bring you back. They're taking care of the things that will maintain a status quo of sickness. Right? That we should understand that. So I think it's incredibly important. I think it is a terrible financial decision to not invest in your body. It is a horrible financial decision not to invest in your body until it is too late. And that is often what I see, because the system as we know it, the healthcare system, is really a sick care system. It's set up to maintain sickness. And that is what insurance does. Insurance feeds that. So we rely on insurance. And because the average person isn't as perhaps as aware of this factor, and they wait for our bodies to completely fall apart before we start to care for it, it's horrible. And I see this all the time. Guys, I would encourage you. Your body is a vehicle. This is not a want. This is not, oh, I want a six-pack. Forget all that noise. This is not, I want a six-pack to look good at the beach. It's my physical body isn't operating like I need to operate on. Forget all that money you want to make. Forget all those dreams you have. Because in those dreams, you are healthy. When you dream, when you cook up and write goals, are you sick? Are you in a wheelchair? No, you're perfectly healthy running down the beach, holding the hands of your loved one who is also healthy. How do you think you get there? You don't get there by beating up your body 24/7 and expect that, oh, I'll make enough money to have the system take care of me. Guys, that is the dumbest thing. It is the biggest misconception we have going on right now, and we've got to stop. We really got to stop. You can't beat up your body for 20 years and expect that all will be well when you're 45, 55, 65. Now you're going to start enjoying the money? That is foolishness. That is utter foolishness. You got to invest now, because the money you chasing works. Your health, one, is more important, and it works exactly the same. If you're not making daily deposits today, there's going to be nothing to withdraw when you want to withdraw. It's going to be too late. So I want to plead to you, invest in your health. Make that a budget item. And insurance doesn't count. If you can find a way to have your insurance pay for the things that insurance doesn't pay for, and I talk to my clients about this all the time. Build yourself a medical team. Your primary care doctor is not that person. They're a part of your team. They're not your entire team. And how many times do you even go to see that dude or that lady? Oh, when things don't go well? Come on, guys. We're playing a dangerous game. We're playing a very dangerous game right now. I'll pause right there because we're over time. But guys, this is horrible. It's horrible. It's extremely upsetting. I see it all the time. I talk to folks who don't understand that LeBron James is not athletes are not the only people that make money off of their body. If you don't have a body, what some of us have this imaginary, like, well, at least my brain can get it done. Are you serious? Your brain's just gonna float and you're gonna get your work done? That is utter stupidity. Stop the garbage. Stop the nonsense.
Cut
Invest
the
in your health.
And
Whew, I'm stirred up.
me too, man. That's a great way to end it off. And I second everything you just said. 1,000%.
It's true.
1,000%.
It's true. I'll give you all an example. My lower back's hurting right now. You know how tough it is to pay attention and provide when you got pain in your body. That's just one small example. There's a million more. Kobi, thank you for the intensity, bro. You got a way of like just emotionally awakening a lot of different people. But hey, guys, that's what we do here. Awareness, right? That's what we do here at The Good Life. So that's it for us today. If you like what you heard, subscribe, smash that like button. Tune in next Monday for another good one, and share this with someone that would love or hate this episode, because all press is good press. We got some people going viral. All press is good press, y'all. Until next time, keep living the good life, and we're out.
Peace.
Welcome to the good life.